What is digital marketing exactly? Well, it's the most basic form of the promotion of products and services using electronic means. Essentially, for every traditional marketing channel, there are multiple digital equivalents. There are hundreds and hundreds of different channels, including some very niche ones, which means that it really only suits a small percentage of industries or people, and we can't possibly cover them all. But we'll be looking at the top digital marketing platforms for the purpose of this program. And by platforms, we basically mean all the different spaces where digital marketing is basically taking place. We'll be looking at some examples now to help you understand this a bit better. And it is incredibly important to remember that you don't have to use something just because it's there. I think many businesses have made this mistake before, and it's totally understandable. It happens. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon just because it's popular and new, only to find out that their customers don't actually use the platform, which is fine. And we'll be learning how to choose the most appropriate platforms throughout the duration of this program for ourselves, and so how we can be more effective and efficient in our marketing efforts. Another little piece of advice is to try focus on a small amount of platforms at first, then build up proper presence there before you try catch them all. So if we start off with social media, which falls under digital marketing, social media comprises of websites and applications that enable people to create and share content and or to communicate with others. We're going to move on right now, but as I slowly transition into the next slide, I want you to quickly think of as many as you can. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So as we said, we first have Facebook, which is then followed by YouTube, WhatsApp Messenger, Instagram, WeChat, TikTok, and Weibo. Snapchat, Pinterest, and Twitter, as well as LinkedIn, still remain popular, but have smaller amounts of users than what the other ones at the top do. So this is what I mean when I talk about platforms. All these different digital spaces or places, and in this case, it's social media. Then we have something called pay-per-click, which is also known as PPC. And that's a model of internet marketing, where advertisers pay a fee each time someone clicks on an ad. While this is not exactly a platform, it is a concept you need to be aware of and which is available on a lot of different platforms. So let's take a look at the places where we can actually create PPC ads. The one I'm sure we all know is Google Ads, and there are multiple campaign types within the platform, but the top ones are generally search, so that's essentially advertising for search engine results pages. Then display, putting banners on different websites, and then shopping, which is for e-commerce or retail. And that is essentially a different kind of ad that appears on the search results page. And if you also look at the screenshot that I've added here everywhere it says the beginning, it's an advertisement, right? At the beginning of your search, you can see towards the top or left of each search result, a small word that says ad. That is where we find the pay-per-click opportunities that companies put onto these search results pages. Everywhere it says at the beginning, it's an advertisement. You can't miss it. So this is what our pay-per-click ads would essentially look like. We pay to have the results shown at the top of the search results. PPC is my favorite aspect of digital marketing, and we'll be spending plenty of time on this as the skill is in high demand. On the right over here is the knowledge panel, but we'll be spending a bit more time on this as we progress through the lesson. Then there are many third-party platforms which assist us with performance or targeting with their product. These are known as software as service. All right, software as a service, that's what it is. AdRoll is a good example of a company that bridges the gap between what some platforms don't allow for various reasons. For example, as a finance company, you can't retarget or remarket to site visitors on search engines, but a company like AdRoll could do that for you. If you don't exactly get what that last bit means, that's okay. Let me explain myself properly for you. So in the digital sphere, we have the option of tracking the visitors that visit our website. If we want to create an ad specifically for the people that have visited us before, that is what is meant by remarketing. And Google, for example, has restricted this option for financial institutions. And using a third party like AdRoll will then help you working around those restrictions in a very legal and very honest way. We will be spending a lot more time in remarketing throughout the course, as it's very powerful and very important for you to understand from the start. Now, we've had a look at PPC. The next thing I'd like to take you through is something called organic marketing. And organic marketing basically means that you would get your own customers to come to you naturally over time, rather than artificially via pad links or paid ads. Let's have a look at what kind of things would fall under this category of organic marketing. So first up, we have something called search engine optimization, or SEO for short. And that is increasing the amount of visitors to a website by obtaining a high ranking placement in the search engine results page. So essentially appearing underneath the top ads on a search engine results page, but not paid ones. And it's very important to actually note that. Then we have something called Google My Business. And let me just show you what it looks like from here. It is called Knowledge Panel, and it's powered by something called the Knowledge Graph. It's a project by Google, and essentially, it's just instead of having to tie together different search terms, it's trying to draw out the context of those search terms and then provide better search results for the person who's actually doing the searching. So we can see here that we have an Adidas as an example. This is what the Google My Business listing actually looks like. This knowledge panel doesn't only just appear for brand searches though, it also appears for different search terms. We explore a bit on how this actually works in our SEO lesson, so stay tuned for those. The knowledge panel was introduced in 2012, and it's Google's way of connecting information. So you can see on the right there's far more information about the business than there used to be, or what we thought was even possible. There's reviews included, very popular times we're in, and you can also add a review. You can ask questions, and now you can even submit a lead. So there's various changes that are always happening to this listing. Definitely worth doing. Even if you're not a brick and mortar store, as in you don't have a physical location, still definitely worth doing. People still look up brands that don't have a physical location. Just remember that. As I mentioned, it's also called the knowledge panel. So if we just look at Zara here, for example, which has not just got one location, it's got multiple locations, and they haven't even sorted that out. That's another story. But at the bottom, you should be able to see it says, claim this knowledge panel. So at the moment, actually, Zara have not claimed their knowledge panel. And this is all just information provided by Google's knowledge graph. Then we have something called direct traffic. And we'll be spending a bit more time on that at a later lesson. But this is essentially people who visit your website, not through advertising, but through putting your direct address into their browser bar. This is a source of organic marketing. It would usually be as a result of other people marketing your business by speaking about it or them hearing about it via the grapevine, because people wouldn't just know what your brand name was, what your URL was, right? It could be also based on bookmarking, but it's in here because it's a big source of traffic that we must take note of. And then we have customer reviews. Now, I think everyone is always amazed at what they can actually get if they ask. And I know I am. So it's definitely worth trying to ask your customers to leave reviews on Facebook and on Google. It's also a well-known documented fact that if you have more positive reviews, then potential new customers are more likely to convert to an actual sale. So it's very important to have a part of your strategy, and I'd like you to note that. A big part of digital marketing is communications. First up here, we have email. Email has very much involved itself in a short lifespan, or evolved itself in a very short lifespan. Personal email addresses were introduced in 1991, and now we have automation systems that enable hugely advanced targeting and segmentation to send very targeted messages to people. Email marketing basically involves staying in touch with your audience through, well, email in various stages. You might want to create a newsletter, for example, send thank you messages after purchase, or maybe even send reminders. All of this falls within the email marketing umbrella. We aren't spending much time on email specifically because it pretty much explains itself, but you're going to understand content development and segmentation, which will certainly apply here. Then there are affiliates, and affiliates are essentially partnerships. and they can range themselves from being between small businesses to huge multi-billion-dollar partnerships. Now, apart from the channels that we've already mentioned here, there are loads of other ones, such as podcasts and also instant messaging. The next thing I'd like to take you through is some common terms and acronyms that are used in digital marketing, because we'll be using these different terms as we progress through this course, but not only throughout this course, but throughout the world of real marketing too. So the next part is quite important, as things can get pretty complicated if you don't know your terms. Let's start off with impression. Now, you receive an impression when an ad or digital media is shown on a person's screen. So it's literally just appearing on the screen. It doesn't have to be 100% on the screen either. It's just somewhere on the screen. So that doesn't mean someone has to actually have seen your post or ad. It just appeared on their screen whilst they were going about their day-to-day business. It's very important to know the difference because that doesn't show actual interaction. The reach, however, refers to the number of people who have seen your ad or content. So now we're moving into more of a focus from the ad just being put on the person's screen, rather to who has actually seen the ad. Reach and impressions are often confused, and I need you to understand the difference right away. You can reach 100 people yet have 200 different impressions. What that means is that one, or on average at least every person of those 100 people saw your ad twice. So you've received 200 impressions, but you've only reached 100 people. Then there is frequency, which is referring to the number of times someone may have seen the same ad. So if we take it back to the previous example with a reach of 100 users and 200 impressions, the frequency there was 2, because each user saw the ad 2 times. While we do not want people to see our ads multiple times and create frustration, we just want to keep an eye on not letting the frequency get too high. Otherwise, they will get tired of it and just, as I said, get quite frustrated with our efforts, which is never a good thing for the brand. You probably know it yourself. When you see something mentioned 1,000,000 times, you just get blind to it eventually. And that's essentially what I mean by that concept. The next term is simply a device. And that is what you are using when performing an action. For example, a mobile or a desktop or tablet. While I'm sure you all know what devices are, it's important for us to remember that this is what device means in digital marketing. A conversation occurs when a person completes a desired goal. For example, a purchase of or submitting a form. We'll be talking about conversations a lot and bring this up time and time again, but the sooner you understand this phrase, the better. So simplified, anytime you want to use it to do something and they actually do it, that is counted as a conversation. And this could be anything, like if they fill out a lead form, if they submit an order, if they subscribe to your newsletter, for example. All of these aspects are considered as conversations, as they are linked to your own goals. And of course, you need to track these like conversations too, and actually interactions with your potential clients if they haven't bought anything just yet.